My name is Jill Coyle, and welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce, where we talk the nitty-gritty aspects of divorce and help each other come through this not only surviving, but thriving. I'm a divorce attorney, and I'm interviewing other experts and people just like you who are going through or have been through a divorce, so you can have the latest and greatest information on all things before, during, and after divorce. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce, Celebrity Edition. I'm excited about today because we're talking about Kanye and Kim Kardashian. And I have to preface, it's no longer Kanye.
Yay, I believe is the accurate term now.
So I guess he just wanted to make it easier for the rest of America. So welcome to our Celebrity Edition. I'm excited for my guest, Cameron Jolley. Welcome to the show.
I'm super excited to be here.
Let me introduce Cameron a little bit and tell you why he's on our show. I think it's perfect for our Celebrity Edition. Cameron is actually my marketing administrator. He does all things marketing with my several businesses and entrepreneurship things that I'm doing. He's a native of Utah. He grew up in Spanish Fork, Utah. He graduated from Spanish Fork High School, and then he served an LDS mission in Washington, D.C. He completed his undergraduate education at Utah Valley State College, which was UVU, not UVU.
It was UVSC back then. Yes, I'm old, guys.
In marketing and communications, he maintains several technical and marketing certifications. Yes. Since that time, he has continued to serve his community in multiple political and community outreach roles. He's an avid fisherman, which he just went on an amazing trip to where? Colombia?
I went to not Costa Rica. I went to Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela.
Yeah, on like a full-on like fisherman, like
it was. It's a little scary down there right now, so we actually had security guards and escorts and translators, and it was a trip of a lifetime. I got to go chase what's called a black marlin, a giant fish, but I didn't get it. But I had the time of a lifetime.
That's amazing, and it fits right in with this next descriptive word of him. He's a thrill seeker, which is exactly what I would describe going to Colombia right now. But he also has a child, a daughter. He's also divorced, and I feel like that's why me and Cameron really, really hit it off, because he knew exactly what my mission was, and he was supportive of it immediately when we met. So I'm so grateful that you're here and that you are talking about Kim and yay.
And yay, yeah. Well, first, before we dive into that, I'd like to say just thanks for the opportunity that I have to work with you. Working with somebody that is focused on female empowerment. For me, being a father that only has a daughter, and not that that's an only, it's a wonderful thing. But because I have just a daughter, I'm hyper focused on her future. So it's wonderful to be able to participate in individuals that are trying to improve lifestyles for girls,
yes.
for women.
Yes. That would be a good thing to start off with, because I think there's a huge, connotation against, you either love or hate Kim Kardashian. Right? You either love the fact of who she is, how she's created this empire, the fact that she's worked and been able to make a lot of money and monetize basically what she does best, which is look sexy. And she's made a lot of money. She's employed a lot of people within her scope. Or you hate her because she's been able to monetize herself literally based off of the way she looks. I mean, let's be real. The Kardashians are a business around their looks.
They're branding gods, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But I will admit that my initial impression of Kim is not what it is now.
Right.
I think I originally started with a lot of disdain, especially considering the way that she kind of climbed to fame. I mean, I know she had some pre-family requisites, if you will, to fame, but I guess the video, the initial introduction was how I learned about her. But with that initial sour taste out of my mouth, if you will, if you can look at how they built a brand, and being a marketing guy myself, I understand messaging and I understand the deep complexities that are inside of it. And these guys are not just smart; they're brilliant. They're off the charts. They take every opportunity,
right.
And it's a family business. It really is. It's unique and it's creative. But yeah, I would agree. Kim is the queen at monetizing on her beauty.
Yeah. And that's what's so crazy about it is she took a really bad experience. I mean, she claims that that sex tape was super mortifying for her, and that's never how she expected. But whoever got into that and said, her PR team, and said, you know what, Kim, we can make this into a multi-billion-dollar business, 30 years down the road. I think that's insane. And as much as, there's a lot of disdain for what she is or what she stands for, because I'll be the first one to say, like, Kim, the Kardashians are not real. Everything around them is planned. They have people telling them what to eat, how to work out. They have amazing doctors, whether they want to admit it or not, because Kim denies ever having plastic surgery, and I just want to roll my eyes at it because I'm like, whatever. But that's how they built their brand. Exactly. It's been around them. And so I think I love the fact that she's been able to be an empowering woman. In the last few years, I think we'll get to this a little bit about her pivot from wanting to be such like a sex symbol to being more of a voice and somebody that can use her brand and her power as an actual ability for change. I think that's where my shift of, Kim Kardashian can stay if she continues to do some of these good things she's doing.
I actually just saw an interview not that long ago where Kim was talking about how she doesn't want to have any regrets in her life and she doesn't like to be that person. But the one regret she does have is that tape. And she talked about that now that she's stepped out of the role of that sex icon and that she feels she's evolved more into a mother. At least that's what she was talking about in this interview. And I really, at that moment, I gained a lot of respect for her because all of us make mistakes. I mean, any of us could be on a tape or do something that we regret. We're all young.
She made a mistake by marrying the basketball player. What was his name? Humphreys.
Yeah.
He wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Well, and talk about two contrasts. I mean, he's a deeply Christian individual, and the Kardashians, I wouldn't put them in that category.
No, exactly.
But you got to admit, she takes the hits and she rolls with them, and she always seems to be calm in her demeanor. Generally, she can be emotional, but for the most part, I'd say her emotional maturity level is pretty high, and she seems to teach the rest of us how to roll through the punches. Right. So there are some aspects of Kim that I think are really admirable, even though that's hard to say considering how she became the star or her person. But I think she's evolved way beyond that, and I don't think it defines her anymore.
And I think that, like, my 12-year-old daughter, I wouldn't mind teaching her Kim Kardashian as being like this business and how, as a woman, she's really stepped out of a box and been able to really grow this empire. But I would never let my daughter watch an episode of the Kardashians, or I've never been into that either. So it's, I want to separate the two. And if Kim continues down this road of really wanting to focus on being a mom and more of a role model, some of her political ideologies that she's starting to kind of get into and support, then I'll be a fan, and I'll be the first one to say, make change, because she has the power and so much money to be able to really effectuate and make change.
Well, and I think the reality too is they were on a reality show, right? I mean, if you look at a show,
which is really not reality.
No, they're required to have ratings. I wouldn't be surprised to see if 90% of the drama or even the, let's say, bad taste we got in our mouths because of the absorbent spending and the lifestyles and the ridiculous.
Right.
Guys, I think that was a big part of the show, because if you take a step back and you look at Kim, I mean, Kanye, I like Kanye a lot, which is interesting because I didn't like him at the beginning. But if you look at Kim's divorce with Kanye, they've both handled it pretty mature. And I feel like just as an individual herself, I feel like she's evolved a lot and she's grown up a lot.
Yeah.
She's no longer the little Paris Hilton groupie individual. I don't put him in, nor do I put Paris in that category anymore. But I feel like her evolution can almost be inspiring to, hey, you can make mistakes out of life, and no PR is bad PR. You can spin it and twist it and make yourself who you really want to be.
I agree. Other than the fact that one of the biggest reasons for Kanye and Kim's divorce is that she talks about how she didn't want to, first of all, live in different states with her husband. Kanye wanted to live in Wyoming. He wanted to get away from the Kardashian clan, and she really was adamant that she didn't. So in my mind, I still think she is very, very highly dependent on her family. In just whether it's for support, it's not for money, because they all each individually have lots and lots of money. But that also makes sense with the fact she has 4 kids. I think moving away from her family right now would be really, really hard. I mean, her kids are young. So here's just a couple facts so we can get started on this. So Kim and Kanye were married on May 24th, 2014. She filed for divorce, made the divorce noted in January 2021. It was filed in February. From everything we've read, it has not been finalized. So we're going to talk a little bit about like some of the things that we found. They have, Kim and Ye have 4 kids together. So they have North, who was born June 15th, 2013. They have Saint, who was December 5th, 2015. They have Chicago, who was born January 15th, 2018. And then they have a son, Psalm, born May 9th, 2019. So I think that's another interesting aspect of this divorce that we can talk about is, 4 kids, very, very young. I think that that's going to be challenging in any direction. And I think that it's something that it will be interesting to see how they deal with it. From doing research for this podcast, though, I recognize that, they talked a lot about how they have like an army of nannies around the kids anyways. So at the end of the day, the kids are going to be fine. I think that's a big thing is they want to try to keep stability, because the most recent thing that came out in the news just yesterday is Kim bought the home basically from Kanye yesterday for like $20 million or something like that. And the only thing I could think of is because Kanye doesn't want to disrupt his kids' lives either. And that's the easiest way to ensure that their kids have some kind of stability.
Well, and I think from Kim's perspective, it's probably pretty mature to try and keep stability for the children the best they can. I don't know, that family dynamic with him wanting her to go to Wyoming, sometimes in a marital relationship, maybe that's healthy to be separated from the family. Maybe it's not. And it's tough not being in that circumstance to know. But I do know that it's tough to be married to an entire family. Yeah.
And that's exactly what Kanye has said in interviews in the last year about how he was just done with being married to the family. He wanted to just be married to Kim. And he talked a lot about how the mom, Kris Jenner, still has just so much influence and say in decisions that the family does. And that's going to be hard in any relationship. And we've seen that a lot in divorces where we talk about how the in-laws had so much persuasion or so much power. And it just was like, it was horrible for the other party. They didn't want that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think unless Kim finds a solution to that, she may just continue to go through divorces.
Right.
If that really is the situation. And I think Kanye and himself, Ye, I'll get used to it, guys. But I think he's such a unique character himself. He's a little bit flighty. He's super talented and I'd say even a savant when it comes to music, but that's got to be hard for stability for children as well.
Right.
So I do see both sides of the argument. But at the end of the day, you're not the one that's in it. And it's tough to make judgment calls on who's right and who's wrong. But I can say I'm really impressed that they both seem to be trying to be good parents.
Yeah, they're trying to do what's best for the kids. And we'll talk a little bit about that because I think that that's really important. From what I've read and what I've studied about this divorce is that Kim is really trying to step up and still support Kanye and everything. So she's really trying to make an effort to show that this isn't, they don't want bad blood, that they want to do what's best for their kids. And she wants to show her kids that she still supports their dad. And she's done that through a couple actions this summer that we'll talk about. But I think it's funny because we always talk about when you're going through a divorce that the worst thing you can do is make big life changes, like big life decisions. But Kanye in August petitioned the court that he could change his name from Kanye Amari West, and he wanted to just be Ye. And I guess that's okay because Kanye, no, not Ye, Ye. Which is weird because it's Y-E, so it's going to take a little bit of effort. but he petitioned the court and he said personal reasons, and the court granted it. And they changed his name specifically yesterday. I guess the Los Angeles Superior Court confirmed, and his official name now is Ye.
I read an article that said it was because it was the most common word in the Bible. I don't know if that's true and confirmed or not, but knowing Kanye and how recently he's turned more of a Christian leaf if you will. I could see that be a reality, which goes back to he drives me crazy, and then I absolutely love him on the same note because he is so genuine to whatever he feels at the moment.
Yeah.
I wish I had the I don't even know if audacity is the right word. I wish I had the gumption to be like, oh, whatever I feel, I am going to do exactly whatever I feel in that moment. And he's inspiring and terrifying all on the same note sometimes for me.
And I read yesterday a little bit. So their combined wealth is about $3 billion.
Oh, wow.
$3 billion. And well, actually, that might not be right. Sorry, I'm looking now at 1.8 billion. And actually, Kanye is richer than her. So I think it worked out that he was like 1.2 billion and then she was the remainder. But what I read was that his is really tied up. It's not liquid assets. It's more in his business, in his Easy shoe line. Easy, is it?
Yeezys, I think.
Which
yes,
would make sense because his name is now Yay. So
Yeezys. I'm gonna say I've got notes here somewhere. Let me go back and see.
So what I was saying, but they were talking about how Kim has more liquid assets, and so she's not so tied up. But the interesting thing is when you're trying to find the specifics about their divorce, you're not getting much far. We've talked about this before on our celebrity podcast, is that these Los Angeles lawyers that do these big, huge divorces, we talked about this on Kelly Clarkson. They are very, very good at making sure that this is like contained as much as possible. So there's a couple things we do know. We know that in February, she specifically filed for divorce. So we definitely know that that has happened. And she, in it, specifically said how she believes that the estate should be split. And then she also said that the parties should share, she said that they should share joint legal, joint physical custody, which is always a good thing to see when you see that automatically they're not going to start, be fighting over kids. And that they want and recognize that both parties should have a pretty frequent
visitation.
Yeah, that they should both be able to have a good relationship, a frequent relationship with their kids. And I just wanted to ask you, in your personal experience being, a divorced dad, I mean, how do you feel like, why do you feel like that is so important?
Well, it's interesting. Part of me I want to take it a little bit of a step back. Part of me wonders if they're not doing this out of protection for their brand, why they're being so copacetic. But let's try to be positive and hope
Right.
that they're doing it because they're really trying to be positive. And if they are, I think that relationship between you and your children after a divorce, it's very paramount how you handle it. It's very, very important that you handle it right, because the truth of the reality is, like you said earlier, I've been through a divorce and I have a daughter. And your first inclination after a divorce is to kind of be negative on that other individual. It's to rag on them, come up with every reason to justify why you're having to go through a divorce because you want to be the good person in your child's eyes. But the reality is your child is half of that other person. So no matter what you say negative, you're ragging on your child. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can make that connection and realize that every negative comment that comes out of your mouth towards your significant ex-other, you're bashing on your child, because that's 50% of who they are. And growing up myself through parents that had gone through divorce, I witnessed my parents using us as bargaining chip, or not even bargaining chips, just tools to get back at each other. And my ex-wife and I decided that we weren't going to do that. We went through a parental class that the state required that taught us that, hey, this is how it affects your children and the long-term psychological effects. And we've made a gallant effort to not do that. And I've seen the difference just from me growing up, the hesitancy that I'd have going back and forth to even talking. I couldn't talk to my dad about my mother. I just couldn't bring her up. And my daughter can talk about anything. Yep. Can talk about her mother, can talk about her step brothers and sisters, where my father, the resentment, it was just on both sides from my father and my mother. So I think psychologically, it's important to remember that that's half of your child. And every time you say anything negative, you're ragging on them. And it's important that your child knows that you loved that person they were with, because they want to be created in a bond of love.
Right.
And I think that I'm proud that out of all of the celebrity divorces, these two seem to be trying to put the children first.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always say this, like, all your children want is to be loved by both parents and be able to be loved back. And I think in divorce, so many times that we start pitting the parent against the other parent, and we use the kids as bait and as a tool to hurt the other parent. And at the end of the day, that's not going to get you nowhere. In fact, all you're doing is hurting your kids. So I think you can sit back, ask the question, do you want to hurt your kids? Because if you do, then of course there's always going to be those people, those high conflict personalities that don't care about anything but themselves, and they are going to hurt the kids. But the majority of people that get divorced don't want that to happen. And so you really want to sit back. You want to try to take the emotions out of it. And you want to, at the end of the day, know that both parents want what's best for your kids. So you should be making decisions that show that.
You know, it's interesting too, because as a child, my parents, like I said, kind of took that tactic back and forth, and I ended up taking the side of my dad. I thought my dad was right. And then as I got older, I resent the hell out of him for doing it.
Right.
I resent that either one of them made me dislike either one of my parents, because I have a rougher relationship with both of them than I would have had if they would have just been okay with me being a child and learning to love my parents for who they are.
Yeah.
You know, I hope that my daughter experiences life different. And I've tried that, and I feel like it's better. I don't know that it is, you know, but right. I think it's a better approach. And I think that people going through a divorce have got to focus on, you might hate that other individual. You might despise everything about them, but they're 50% of your kid.
Yeah.
So you need to learn to love the parts that are in your kid. And regardless of what those negatives are of that person, push them away and don't talk about it. Don't focus on it, because that negativity will draw into your life. Let it go.
Yep.
Don't let them pull you down and be an anchor for the rest of your life. Let it go, move on. And like you talk about in your book, find an individual who brings something to you, because you are supposed to be in a relationship where you're both bringing a benefit. And if you're not having that, you're not doing it right.
Yep.
And I'm actually super grateful for your book, because when I wanted to get a divorce, there was a lot of questions that I needed to ask myself that I didn't ask, that are in that book, that if I would have, maybe I would have been divorced 2 to 3 years earlier.
Yeah.
So I think it's an important message that needs to be pushed.
Right. And I think that when we're shifting back to Kim and Kanye, I think when Kim was contemplating divorce, she really did go through kind of a soul searching of deciding if this was best. And we've watched a lot of video of her talking about it. I mean, clearly her life is scripted and put out there. So there is a lot of information about her talking about this, but she really does talk about how she really needs to put herself first and her kids first. And, you know, she doesn't want to be married to somebody that lives in the other state, and she doesn't want to continually feel like she's not number one in that relationship. And I think there was a lot of reasoning and sane reasoning behind her, you know, her feeling like she wasn't number one in Kanye's life. And, you know, he's busy and he's got a lot of things he's doing. And but I also think it's interesting because Kanye has really changed and shifted into this like more political. Obviously, he ran for president. Crazy.
Yeah.
And so I think that was probably something that she's like, wow, we just don't see eye to eye. We don't have things in common, and that's hard. And actually, Kanye has reported that they don't have anything in common anymore. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about their timeline of divorce. So in January 5th, it came out and dropped that she wanted a divorce from him. So Kim hired Laura Wasser, and we've talked about her because she's the major Hollywood star divorce attorney. I would assume that there are some stars that have her on retainer, even though they're not getting divorced, because as you know, to pick a divorce attorney, if she's met with your spouse, you can't hire her. But she has done so many of the big name divorces. Britney Spears, she did, she did Ryan Reynolds, she did Christina Aguilera, Heidi Klum, Drew Barrymore. And then, of course, we talked about, Johnny Depp, Britney Spears, I said, Angelina Jolie. And then we talked about her because she's Kelly Clarkson's attorney right now.
Wow.
But the reason why so many stars love her is because she is known for her discretion. And we've talked about that. She's very, very good at making sure she keeps private out of court. She never makes comments. She never talks about it. One day I hope she writes a book and we get all this salacious detail, but you know, that won't be for a while. Anyways, and then her actual belief behind marriage is interesting because she's divorced anyways. We talked a lot about her. And so Anyway, so she hired this big dog. But what we've noticed is that they filed, and then Kanye filed a counter petition, several weeks later. But that's all that's been filed in the divorce. And so the thing that I'm thinking is they're just working out of court to get an agreement. And then as soon as that agreement comes, they'll file the agreement with the court, and then it will be sealed so nobody will ever see it. The other thing that I have not been able to find, and were you able to find if they had a prenup?
I didn't find any info on that, but I looked for it specifically. And
so my thing is I'm going to guess they do. They were both very, very well endowed.
They had a lot of money.
Yeah. Which Kim is well endowed.
Yeah.
Technically. But for that, so they had a lot of money. So I'm going to guess that they did have some kind of prenup in place, but a lot of things the prenup wouldn't have covered. And that's going to be the kids. That's going to be child support, which if she takes majority custody, which I'm assuming she's going to, because she's living in Los Angeles and Kanye, it's traveling and doing all his stuff. He's going to have to pay child support. He is worth more than her, but she's still very wealthy. So I'm sure alimony is not going to be an issue. So it will be interesting to see. And then we see like the house, the Los Angeles house, she just paid Kanye out for that. So I'm guessing they're working through the main agreements. Maybe they already have it and we just haven't been told. And that's why we're seeing things like her buying the house that she did this last week, kind of come to fruition.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, and one of the things that she's really, like, it's been reported a ton is Kim and Kanye have no bad blood, and they are very cordial. He's focusing on his world, and she's focusing on her world. And so that really goes back to what we're talking about is Kim is really trying to support him and show that she's still there for him. It was interesting because when was that? It was early this year after the reports of the divorce where he stopped following her on Instagram
and Twitter. I saw that.
And stopped following all of the family. And so everybody was like, oh my gosh, Kanye's not following Kim anymore. That means they hate each other and all, anyways, I just thought that was interesting and that kind of blew up.
You know what kind of, I like the fact they're getting along, but my pessimist inside of me says, are they really?
Yeah.
And in my head, I think out of all the people in the world, would I want Kanye West to be mad at me? No, because that man's got a microphone and a pulpit and he will say whatever comes across his mind. And so from a personal brand perspective, man, if I was the Kardashians, I would be like, Kim, you keep him happy no matter what we have. Like, I don't know if they're trying to drag a fine line or if they're actually genuine people who are really just trying to be, I would like to hope that's who they are. And especially where Kanye's twisted he's come a little bit more into maybe.
Well, Kanye has openly admitted that he still loves her, that he didn't want the divorce, that this is her.
Yeah.
And, he sounds like that was more of probably a knee jerk, like broken puppy, like,
right.
Oh, woe is me. We've heard a lot in the news lately too, that he's really upset now that Kim is the one looking like she wanted the divorce. Mm-hmm. And he's openly come out and said in the last couple of months, no, it was me. I wanted the divorce. We didn't have anything in common. And I thought, and she was the one who, for PR purposes, needed to be the one to file first. And I laughed. Well, I was like, oh my gosh.
It proves that even celebrities with all of the money and all of the clout and all of the PR firms are just as vulnerable and wounded as us.
Yeah.
When you go through relationships, everybody hurts. Right. It doesn't matter if you got $1 billion, you're going to hurt. So it kind of makes me chuckle. But on the flip side, I will have to admit that both of these individuals are showing a lot of emotional maturity at the moment, or at least their PR firms are doing a good job of portraying that right now.
Well, because on March 11th this year, Kanye changed his number and he told Kim she has to contact him through a security detail.
Oh,
come on.
All right, well, maybe not then. Maybe
the
it's
mother
turning.
Of your children, But on April 5th, you see she has a picture and she's wearing her Yeezys. That's what you say.
Yeah, Yeezys. She's done that in a lot of photos lately. Like she's trying to go out and show that she's still supporting him, which I respect.
Yeah.
So, but on the flip side, wouldn't want him as an enemy.
This is where it says on April 19th, a source tells Page Six that Kanye is super annoyed that the story is being constantly presented as her divorcing him. Actually, it was him saying for a year that they have nothing in common except the kids, and he wanted out. She pulled all the stops to try to save the marriage. The source also alleges Kanye let Kim first file in order to give her the dignity. I was like, oh my gosh, I rolled my eyes at it.
Children.
Yeah, I struggle with Kanye, like all the way back to the what was it, the music awards where
he grabbed the mic
from Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift was so young at this time. I still just have a problem with that. I still, and then what he did, the whole basically catfished her and into a song, and I agree that he kind of speaks his mind, but I think he's rude.
He is missing some tact. There's definitely tact that needs to be taught, but I don't know that he, it's interesting. I watched this interview with him and Eminem. And Eminem was talking about the first time that he sat down with Kanye, and when he hit a mic, and he just talked about how he's so insanely talented, and that is his gift. I wonder in my head if he's not one of these, I wouldn't say like special people, but I think he's almost like a savant when it comes to music, and lacking maybe in some of the other places, lacking in some of the social skills and different things. And I don't know. It seems like some people that are gifted with certain categories, they seem to be lacking in other categories. And I don't know if that's the situation with Kanye, but that's the assumption that I have just from what I've seen is he's so talented, but with that talent comes some interesting.
He does make good music, and he has a brand, and he, I think really supports an amazing demographic, and I think that he does, and he uses his platform, I think, for some good, but just like you said, with that, like becoming famous so young, and it's almost like sometimes they're emotionally stunted on like things like that. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that time and time again with these like huge stars. I mean, even Taylor Swift, you can see is a little bit stunted in her growth. But like when you look at some of these younger stars, Miley Cyrus and, Justin Bieber, that became just so famous, so young, they're all going to have a little bit of problems.
Well, and I think it's because you just don't have the same challenges, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have to earn and work and go through the same struggles that everybody else does, you don't become just as emotionally mature. You don't have those, which is, what we kind of want in celebrities. We don't want them to be perfect. We want the rough edges.
I think a lot of it is that maturity comes with like moving into adulthood, where you have to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And, you wonder, where is that money going to come from? So you're like figuring out how to work, and you're, how to buy a house, and like you actually have to make those adult decisions. When you are so rich, so young, like Kim Kardashian and Kanye were, you don't make those decisions. And when you never make those decisions, I agree. Like you see kind of a shift in the fact that they can't then make those, I think, mature decisions as a full grown adult. I mean, Kim's how old? My age, 40, I think.
Which is
she turned 40 this year.
It's interesting, though, because I think we also, on the flip side, we don't have the same experiences that they have. So I think they're more mature in, say, business mindsets, or in PR, or an understanding of how to do their specific genre. I think they're probably more evolved than us. I think that it's they perspective.
When it comes to social media and stuff.
Right.
But they've got a billion, they have a team, the best, because they can afford it. So I don't know.
I try to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're, just as creative and unique as anybody else. But it is tough to reach that level when you don't have to be pushed.
Yeah, it's hard. See, on June 10th, Kim opens up about her divorce on to Kris Jenner. And she talks about how after turning 40 this year, I realized no, I don't want a husband that lives in a completely different state. To me, I thought, oh my goodness, that's when we're getting along the best. But then that is sad to me, and that's not what I want. I want someone that we have the same shows in common. I want someone who wants to work out with me. And so you can clearly kind of hear the breakdown that they just don't they don't have things in common. And I agree. That's hard.
I couldn't agree more. There is no way. I won't even live 30 minutes away from anybody I'm dating.
Yeah.
So I think another state is absurd, especially when you have children.
Yeah.
So any healthy relationship, you need time with that significant other.
Yeah.
Like that's just, you have to be there. You have to.
Right.
I don't know. That's a complicated situation, but I don't blame her because I seek the same things. I want somebody to do things with me, work out with me, do the hobbies that I have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be fulfilled if I didn't have that person either.
Right.
So I understand.
Well, and it's like, I love to watch TV with my husband, and it would be sad if we were like sitting in the same bed, but like watching different shows. Like, I love the fact that we kind of have this every other show thing. So like we watch something I really want to watch, and then we watch something he really wants to watch, and we support each other that way, but we're always doing it together. The other thing is like my husband loves to golf, loves it. And it's not something that just I'm drawn to, but I want to spend time with him. So I knew, a few years ago that I needed to go golf with my husband because that was his outlet. That's his mental like therapy. And I was like, well, if I want to spend time with him, then I should support him in doing something he loves. And on the, the other end, he does things that I love. I'm an avid sports fan. He is too, but I love the Jazz. Go Jazz. And so he loves supporting me in that. And so it's just kind of a give and take. And unfortunately, in a marriage like this, you're right. I mean, if he's not in town and you're going weeks without seeing him, that's going to be tough.
Well, and those children, they need to know their father. Your significant other, if they are your significant other, you have to give them time. That they deserve that. Just like you're willing to sacrifice and go golfing, even though you don't hate it. Your husband is willing to do it on the flip side. That's what a relationship's about. It's the give and take. And when it's one-sided, or when you're separated by so much distance that you can't actually be in the relationship, it's not a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to either of you. You both deserve to be fulfilled on every level. And I mean, you got to admit, distance, you can't fulfill physical. Distance, you can fulfill a small portion of emotional. Like it limits your ability to be in a relationship.
Yep. I absolutely agree. And so going back to so they showed this, these immature moments, like June was when Kanye, unfollowed her on Instagram, which is so funny because that is just like, you can like block them without unfollowing them, and like so you don't see them on your feed, but you don't have to look like such a jerk.
It was a petty move,
right? And I'm sure his PR were like, "What are you doing? Like that's so dumb." Like there's trolls out there that's all they do every day to see who's following Kim Kardashian. She's like one of the most followed people in the world. Well,
and it's sad because doing that, he probably got more followers,
right?
So it's like we reward them as a society by being emotionally immature, but if you can make a giant fool out of yourself, you'll get more money. Do it.
Gosh.
We're not promoting them to be the people we want them to be.
Well, and it was a big deal when I'm reading about it because I don't purposely read about these people. I'm like, this is not the celebrity gossip that I'm like really into. So but I heard about it and I was like, oh, it's a big deal. But yeah. But this just shows you the mind shift of them. So on July 23rd, Kanye is coming out with his new album. It just dropped actually a few weeks ago, I think, Donda. So he was at a listening event and she shows up and goes on stage and she's wearing a matching red outfit to like support him. And she took a Twitter, pictures of her outfit and it matches what he's wearing at his listening event. So I was like, okay, good job, Kim. Like, that's cool.
I just hope they can maintain it. These kids are young. And they need for the next 20 years and even plus, even after the kids are technically out of the house, they need to not badmouth each other. They need to be supportive of each other. I mean, she doesn't have to be his biggest fan. Like that might be crossing a line a little bit.
Right. Especially
when he starts dating and she starts dating, that'll just get creepy and weird.
That was the rumor that why he unfollowed her because he started dating some other girl.
Oh. Well, that's once you're divorced, that's healthy. But I think until you're divorced, you should probably figure your stuff out.
Yes.
But
especially for your 4 little kids.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's their mother and that's their father. Like, be respectful to each other. Wait until the divorce is done and don't talk bad about each other. It's really not that hard.
Or heaven forbid, don't post it on social media.
And then the kids. And here's the shocking thing. Let's say that you really feel those feelings, but you don't do it. Then your kids grow up, and if they get in that situation, now they have a blueprint from you, and it's not an issue for them. Yeah. Now they understand this is how you emotionally handle a divorce, and they'll go through it, and their kids will be like you're blessing generations down the road if you can just be a mature adult and buck up a little bit.
Oh my gosh, I agree.
Choose your children, and I know that's hard in the moment. Trust me.
4. When they had their fourth, I think their third and fourth was both by the surrogate. But when I heard that they were having a fourth kid, I was like, what? What? No, nobody has 4 kids except crazy people like me, not like super rich celebrities.
I was going to say it's unheard of.
And they're so young. I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it.
Well, and the empire they get to grow into, if mom and dad can get their crap together and be adults about it, they have the world's their oyster.
Right.
They get to do anything and everything. I just hope mom and dad are smart enough to be mature enough for the children.
I agree. And honestly, I guess I could, like, I have a nanny. She's absolutely amazing. And so I know for a fact that having 4 kids right now would be almost impossible for me without that support. And they have an army of nannies. So it can happen.
And by the way, that doesn't make you less of a parent. If anything, in some situations, it makes you more of a parent, being able to admit that you need help rather than neglecting your children.
Yeah.
I've seen some kids that are raised with parents and with nannies who are super successful and turn out to be amazing individuals. It's all about putting in the right amount of time and letting the kids know that they're a high priority and including them in their life, because if they see you build and be this wonderful person, they want to grow up to be that same person. We're giving them the blueprint.
So she did it again on August 6th. She went to one of his Donda listing events, which, by the way, am not a huge Kanye fan, but I did listen to this album because I love music and it's very good.
I actually love his music. Like, I'm addicted. I can't get enough.
Yeah, it's very good. It's inspirational. I think it's good. However, Justin Bieber's new album that dropped this last month is amazing.
Yeah, talk about somebody else with talent.
I'm a believer right now.
I wasn't,
which I never have been.
I used to hate him, and now I've also turned to 180 and absolutely adore him. I think when you get into their insecurities, because he's got a song that talks about his growing up and opened up, and I'm like, wow,
lonely.
Yeah, man. If I was put in that situation, I'd probably be a lot worse. So it's like, on the flip side. And anyway, sorry, back to Kim and Ye.
I know we keep going back and forth. It's never gonna get easy.
I love the fact that, because I don't even know myself. Like, I come on this high horse and I go, oh, be good parents and blah, 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 blah. If I had $1 billion in the bank, would I really be a good parent, or would I be sitting on a catamaran drinking Mai Tais and drunk 24/7? I don't know. I'd like to think I'm more mature than that. I'd like to think I'd be a good person, but $1 billion, that's a tropical island and a boat and all the fun I could ever imagine. So on the flip side, bravo to them for being as good as they are, considering how easy they could walk away, give the middle finger to the world, and live like whatever they want.
It's true.
So
on August 26th, this is what got everybody confused, because Kim wore a wedding dress to Kanye's 3rd Donda listening event, and she came out on stage in it. And they seemingly recreate their wedding vows, prompting speculation that they're remarried. There was this tweet that said, did Kanye and Kim just get back together? This event's nuts. And then there's, tweets of her in her dress, and just again, I think PR.
See, and I'm going in my head, I'm like, marketing admin, whoever you are, bravo.
Yes.
Way to use the situation.
It's like clap, clap, clap. If we can find out how to use crazy PR to make people, just want more, that's it.
I think that phrase that no PR is bad PR, I think Kanye's team, probably out of anybody, understands that better than anyone in the world. So, but I mean, bravo. Think of the millions of dollars in publicity they got because she showed up in a dress, and it's going to help both of their brands. Yeah, it brought up some confusion and whatever, but ultimately, if they can be mature business owners and say, hey, how can we utilize this for the best of our brands as well as our children? I mean, there's multiple motives for them to be mature through this divorce.
Yeah. And it looks like the divorce is going through because, again, I talked about this, but yesterday or today, it came out that she bought his Hidden Hills home for $23 million that Kim's been living in with the kids. And so,
and good on him for doing that.
And he
stability.
It's interesting because he put up his 2 Wyoming ranches for sale on October 11th. So, I don't know what they're doing.
Maybe he's coming back to California or LA so he can be by the kids. I mean, as a father myself, I have a decently successful career, but regardless of where I'm at in life, if my daughter and by some reason the courts let her take my daughter, I would move. I would move to be by her. And that's unfortunate, but that's from a father's perspective, I would do that. So I wonder if maybe Ye is considering the same thing.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm sure that we're going to be able to find out exactly what is going on and be able to, kind of follow this. I think what we're going to find is eventually we're just going to see that they're divorced, and we're going to get the announcement they're divorced, and we won't really know the terms of it. But it will probably happen before the end of the year is what I'm thinking.
I would assume. And then probably within a few months after that, we'll get a few hints through some Kanye's music. And then a year and a half later than that, Kanye will probably snap and break down and blow up on some platform at some point.
Right.
I mean, maybe we'll be lucky and there'll be no breakdown and it'll just go smooth, which is hopeful. But,
Yeah.
I don't know. Ye has had some moments that makes me wonder if he's going to be able to hold back. I hope he can. I'm rooting for him. I'm actually rooting for both of them. I'm rooting for those kids too, but I'm really proud, honestly. I know that's weird to say from these two. I'm proud that they've handled it, at least to this point, as clean as they have, because I didn't think, if somebody was to say a few years ago, hey, if Kim and Kanye got divorced, I'd go, oh Lord, like that's going to be a media blitz. It's going to be a nightmare. Kanye's going to be, who knows, more people shaving their heads and stuff. I didn't know. But I've been really impressed. They've both kind of rolled out to be a lot more mature. I think they've both grown up, and yeah, there's still some rough edges, but I'm impressed with just their evolution.
I again think that it's the 4 kids. I think that they're both trying to just be. I don't necessarily think that they're both at a maturity level of this magnitude.
You think I'm giving them too much credit?
Yeah, I do. I think that their PR people are really saying you need to protect your kids, and I agree with you that we're just going to wait for the blow up and the rant on MTV Music Awards or something. And Kanye is going to give it to her and it's going to be great and salacious. And it's not going to be great, but it's going to be Kanye. And you're going to be like, oh, that's Kanye. What I wanted to say is that if you would have told me 4 years ago that Kim and Kanye would get divorced, I would say, oh, it's inevitable. Like it's coming.
Yeah. I'm blown away they made it as long as they did.
Yeah. Well, they kept having kids.
Yeah, that is the glue.
I see it. When you have that many kids, and it just you kind of put your head down, and you just do it for the kids, but it doesn't necessarily mean
outside of celebrity marriage. That's quite common around here. I see a lot of marriages that they start to struggle, and the answer is, "Oh, let's pop out kids." And 4 years or 4 kids later, they're like, "Oh, we have 4 kids, and we still hate each other."
Yeah.
What
now
do?
We have 4 kids.
Yeah, and from a single guy, that's a red flag when I start dating people and I find somebody that's got 4 or 5 kids and it's like, when did you know the marriage was rough? Oh, 1 kid. Let me think about that. I'm gonna have to mull that one out a little bit.
It's so true, and it all comes down to if you're really going to be able to find out your worth, know what makes you happy and whole. You can make any relationship work if both parties are whole people. And I know that you've talked a lot about this in your post-divorce dating, which is actually an interesting topic we should talk about a lot in future podcasts.
Anytime.
But you really, the biggest thing you can do going through the divorce is learn from it, use it as your platform to become a better person. And that's what my book teaches.
And honestly, I wish people would actually understand that more, because going through a divorce, you don't have control of the other person at all. Nothing. All you have is control of yourself, but there's actually a lot of movement inside of that. And people don't realize that. And being able to work on yourself and change yourself and find the better you that you want to be when you're out there dating and you're attracting that new person, you're able to find what you were missing before, because ultimately what was missing was inside of you.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can only control what's your partner may have problems. They may have issues that bother you, but you can only control yourself. So that's one thing I really love about this book is not just the fact that you needed to read it after a divorce. It was before the divorce. There was a lot of questions I wanted to ask, like, when could I finally leave? And a lot of these questions in that book made me realize, you know what, I'm not being totally fulfilled. Now, granted, I read it after I'd already been divorced, but they were the questions I had to come up with on my own. So for me, I think it's really important that if you're going through a divorce, considering a divorce, or even after a divorce, you take a chance to read this book, because it does guide you to what you need moving on. And what you will actually have to fulfill you, because that's what ultimately you need in the end, is something that'll fulfill you again. But you can't do that by just searching. You have to do the work yourself. You have to fix yourself first. Anyway, that's enough of my rant.
I love it. Thank you so much. That's my book, No One Dies from Divorce. And we're really excited because my audio version is going to be coming out in the next few weeks. We'll make sure we give you all the details on that, but it's on Amazon and in every local bookstore almost in Utah. So pick up a copy. Thanks for your support of that. The last thought I want to say about Kim and Kanye is two things. First of all, Kim Ye is officially dead. So that's a little bit sad. And then second of all, Kim Kardashian is basically the princess of America. And we get so excited about her weddings. And this is her third divorce. She's had 3 amazing weddings. So can't wait for the 4th.
I'm impressed with her wedding crew because every time it's better than the last.
She makes so much money off of a wedding. So it's like, why not get married? You could do it, Kim. This time, find somebody that wants to watch TV with you and work out.
Exactly.
You could do
exactly. And somebody who can handle the family.
Yes, that's absolutely.
Or maybe consider separating yourself from said family. Just throwing it out there from somebody who's lived through that predicament.
I know. That's so true. Anyways, thank you so much. That's another episode of No One Dies from Divorce Celebrity Edition. Cameron, thanks for joining. It was fun.
Absolutely. Anytime. I had a riot.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, follow, and share. I'd love to hear your questions and feedback. You can contact me at community@jillcoyle.com. See you next time. I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. Any advice given on the podcast is general and shall not be construed as legal advice.